Hello everyone and welcome to another ride overview. Today we are going to discuss a rather unique coaster type, the mine ride. Unlike every other coaster type, the mine ride doesn't need a chain lift, launch or boosters to gain speed. This is because much like the monorail or the miniature railway, it uses powered trains to get around. If you just build a completely flat track, the train will slowly speed up until it reaches the maximum speed of 51 km per hour, making it the fastest powered ride in the game. Actually, that only goes for an empty train. A full train is heavier and as a result the engine can only get it up to 49 km per hour. Of course it will go faster than that if it goes downhill, but without any help from gravity it still reaches a fairly high top speed. You may think that because it's a powered train it goes uphill quite fast, at least faster than a regular chain lift, but that's unfortunately not the case. With a pathetic 3 km per hour, the mine ride goes up hills slower than the slowest chain lift in the entire game. The only rides that go up hills even slower are a few water rides. Because of this, the mine ride isn't really meant to be built like a standard coaster, where the first thing that you do is go up a big hill. To show you how big the effect is, I've built the exact same design for a mine ride and a looping coaster here. The looping coaster has its chain lift speed set to 8 km per hour, and because that's so much faster than a mine ride, the ride duration is a lot shorter. Whereas the looping coaster takes 52 seconds to complete the track, the mine ride takes exactly 50% longer at 1 minute and 18 seconds. What you should do instead is build a lot of twists and turns with little hills in between. A great example of this is the only pre-build that comes with the game, which is Mania. If we take away the scenery, we can see that the tallest hill is only 3 units tall, and by the time it gets there it has more than enough speed to clear it without losing a lot of speed. Whereas in the previous test the mine ride was much slower than a standard looping coaster design, now it's much faster. The total ride length of Mania is 2 laps of 343 meters for a total of 686 meters. It takes 47 seconds to complete the ride. The looping coaster pre-built Fizzly is slightly shorter than that, but due to the chain lift it has a much lower average speed. This time it's the looping coaster that's about 50% slower, as it takes 1 minute and 9 seconds to complete the track. This means that the mine ride can process quite a lot of guests per hour if you build it right. Other than the throughput, which as I just mentioned is on the high end of the spectrum, the cost and stats of the mine ride are about average. It is slightly cheaper than the looping coaster and has similar stats. As long as you avoid the lateral G penalties, it will not have a very high intensity rating, but that comes at the cost of also not having a very high excitement rating. This makes the mine ride an unspectacular but solid coaster type. If you also have something like a vertical drop or a wooden coaster in your park, the mine ride won't be at the top of the profit per hour list, but as long as you don't expect it to beat the best coaster types in the game, it won't disappoint you either. Before I show off a few designs that you could use, we will quickly go over the special elements and stat requirements. I say quickly because there really isn't a lot to say here. The special elements that the mine ride gets are the station, S-bands, small and large helixes and photo section, but those are so common that you can hardly call them special. The only stat requirement that it has is that it needs to be at least 270 meters long, otherwise all its stats will be divided by 2. Because it only has a length requirement, you don't have to worry about including drops and you can just go ham on a lot of turns and helixes. It often still is a good idea to include at least a few small hills and drops, as that does give you higher stats. My first design doesn't have any drops though, as it is optimized to be as cheap and compact as possible without getting any stat penalties. Because it needs to be at least 270 meters long, it is much more expensive than the cheapest corkscrew or cheapest stand-up coaster. This means that unfortunately the Mine Ride cannot really be used for microcoaster spam. That said, this design has a maximum throughput of about 4,000 guests per hour and you can charge more than $7 for it even if you have multiple of them in your park. That's not bad for a ride that costs less than 3,000 euros. You can find a download link to this design and the other designs in the description. The next design is a bit bigger and looks more like an actual coaster. It is nearly twice the cost of the cheap design, and while you can charge a bit more for it, it is less cost efficient. That's not the point of this design though. The point is that it is still quite efficient while also looking a lot more like an actual coaster. The station is raised a few units so that you can start with going down, allowing the train to get up to speed very quickly. I stole this trick from the pre-built Mania, which I used in a test earlier, and Mania is actually quite a good design as well. The last design is the largest and is once again less efficient than the previous one. Its stats are a bit higher, but it also costs almost 10,000 euros. This design is only really designed to be used in scenarios with harder guest generation, where you need rides with a length of at least 600 meters and an excitement rating of at least 6. It doesn't quite reach 6 excitement on its own, but with just the slightest bit of path interaction, which is very easy to do, it will reach it. Just like the other two designs, it has a 9-tile long station. This is because you need 9 tiles to be able to run 2 trains of 10 cars. If you want to run more trains than that, you either need shorter trains or a very long station. These 3 designs are all very efficient and very useful, but I think that the best use of the Mine Ride is actually as a heavily themed ride. A great example of this is the one in Tycoon Park from Rollercoaster Tycoon Classic. It takes absolutely forever to get up the first hill, but that doesn't really matter as this design is purely meant to look good, and it does look really good. I can't really give you heavily themed downloadable designs as every design is different depending on the park, so you're on your own here. And that's all I have to say about the Mine Ride. In conclusion, it is not a very spectacular coaster type, but it can be very pretty or very useful if you use it right. If you liked this ride overview, consider giving it a like or leave a comment. You can also subscribe or follow me on Twitch. Thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next video.